Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Of course, this is the simulated version, and that is the A310. Yeah, United did not fly the A310, but we're going to go ahead and take this on a flight anyway. This is from iniBuilds, and I got to tell you, the iniBuilds airplanes are really, really great airplanes. In fact, if you are looking for a good cross-the-pond airplane, I think this is a really good choice out there. Hello and welcome to the 757 Spy Flight Deck. I'm Dave. I do these cold and dark videos all the time. Most of the time, though, I'm out hanging out with flying friends over on Twitch, and I hope that you'll come over too. So let's jump into this flight and tell you what's going to go on with this video. This is what I call a cold and dark video, and today's flight plan is to take a fictional United A310 from Chicago to Boston. Departure time's 9 a.m. We should get to Boston a little before lunchtime. We're at O'Hare Gate C21. The add-ons that I'm using are SimToolkit Pro and SimBrief, Navigraph Data ADP charts. I'm also going to use better pushback on this flight. As far as stuff that I'm using over in the exciting world of X-Plane, I do have payware airports. This is a payware for Chicago O'Hare. Boston is a freeware from Mr. X scenery, which is really good. And then there's a little bit of ortho scenery along the way. And that's pretty much what's going on here. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, I'm going to keep this super simple. There are many, many rabbit holes that you can jump down in the world of simulated airplanes, especially complex airplanes like the airplanes that iniBuilds puts out, which is really, catnip for flight simmers. But we can hop down the rabbit holes later. Now, one thing I'm going to suggest is get your charts ready. You'll see that my charts are ready for this flight. The most important thing I like to say is this is not about the right way versus the wrong way, okay? This is what works for me. This is a video if you're a relative newcomer to big complex jets in the flight sim world. This is a way to get you going as fast as you can. So how does it work? Well, fly along with me. Stop this video, go load up your flight simulator, get the flight plan ready to go, and I'm going to show you all this stuff. Then after you do this flight with me, I really like to suggest do the same airplane out of your hometown airport. If your hometown airport's a big airport, go to another hub. If it's a small airport, go to the big town airport. Do a hometown flight. Again, pause and restart this video as you need to. Roll it back if I did something too fast, and maybe that'll help you catch up. And then again, I always like to suggest, please join us on the spy flights. They're kind of fun over on Twitch. Here's our flight today, Chicago to Boston. Cruise level is flight level 370. That is the flight plan that I got off of SimBrief through SimToolkit Pro. Right now, Boston is landing 3-3 left. Flight time today is 1 hour and 36 minutes, 788 nautical miles. And there you go. So what do you say we hop into, I didn't want you to see the big page. Scary first thing in the morning. Let's hop into the best seat in the house here. So make sure that your mouse pointer is over on X-Plane, and then go ahead and hop into the airplane here. I haven't really done anything in this airplane except I did look down and I moved my controls just to make sure that all of my simulator controls are connected. Make sure that your connections work, okay? So make sure those connections are all working. Otherwise, once you set up the airplane and discover that your joystick doesn't work, that's not a very happy feeling. Then the other thing that I did is I looked down here and I looked to make sure that my parking brake was set. Some airports in X-Plane, your airplane will appear on a slope, and if you don't put on your parking brake, your airplane's going to start rolling around. And that's not exciting. Come on over to ground services. The only thing I've done is I also put my chocks in place just so the airplane wouldn't go rolling around. Let's go and return, and we're going to go over to the exits on this airplane. First thing to do, disarm your doors. You know those little slides? The escape slides? If you don't disarm your doors, you're going to blow the slide on this airplane. Even if the jetway is in place, you will blow the slide. So go over here. I'm going to open up the 1L door. We're also going to open the forward and aft cargo bays. And if we go outside the airplane and have a quick look, you can see my cargo bays are opening. So that's pretty cool. Let's kind of come on over here. And let's just go over here and let's do a little thing. So let's release the camera and kind of just go out And it's kind of hard to do these things. The jetways are not really meant for walking down here in X-Plane, but you can kind of walk down the jetway just a little bit. So go into the rounder thing, look over here. Oh, wow, this one, they actually put a jetway operator here. So there's a jetway operator here. You can kind of come here. Now, we got to do a little bit of a step up here. Sometimes, you know, you might have to step up, but then you can kind of walk into the airplane. And, you know, the thing is some of us haven't been in an airplane for years. So, you know, just walking down a little jetway like that. Oh, look at that. There's a whole cabin. Well, we'll explore all that later. Let's get to the best seat in the house. I don't think you can open the door from the outside. You have to actually be inside the cockpit to open the door. So that's basically how we walk down. Okay, so there's some of the fun and cute stuff there. Let's go ahead and return. And ground services, we're going to need external power. So let's plug in an external power card. We don't need air stairs. I don't really feel like we need a loader. Our doors are open, so you could put those in. But for a passenger airplane, iniBuilds really has done a nice job of simulating cargo operations. And don't necessarily need that here. So we got that. Let's go to the next page. We're going to need a fuel truck. You could bring a passenger bus and catering over if you want, but I don't think that that's a huge deal. And then the other thing that you might do is you could set up your pushback truck now. If you've taken a look at the weather, if you're on VATSIM and you know the way that the traffic flow is going, you could go ahead and pre-plan your pushback right now. And to do that here, usually in this case, Chicago, for this one, I think they usually will push you and spin you with your nose to the towards town. So we'll just go like that. I also will set up my pushbacks. You see the roads out there? That's where there's ground traffic. I'm going to set my final pushback to the point where...
Round to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Hey, that's another live streamer. John Fly is doing our pushback today. Thank you. I will usually not do my pushback until I won't push myself back into a traffic area. Hey, let's take a look. Did you see this little thing up here? This airport right here, you can set ORD to Boston. That's our flight. It's 8:49. We got 10 minutes for a 9 a.m. departure. 3015, that is our current altimeter setting. The temperature in Chicago right now, if you look at the METAR, -1. Holy moly, this stuff is right on. You set this in this particular airport, just go to Nimbus and KORD, and this is where you can go and put in your destination airport and your departure time, and that's going to change that there. It's a little thing in there, but that's kind of fun. Okay, so let's go back over here. We pre-planned the pushback. External power chocks. We got a fuel truck out there. Yep, we got a fuel truck. Let's go and return, and let's do the load sheet. So on your flight plan, you're going to see some point, depending upon which format you use, and I use the United Airlines 2018 format. So I'm going to look for here, look for something labeled ZFW, zero fuel weight, and that's 103.6 is the way you would put it in here. So 103.6 kgs, 103.6. By the way, when you're flight planning, use kgs. This is an Airbus. Fuel, okay, you're going to want gate fuel. So gate fuel right down here is 12,947. That translates to 12.9. So dial in your fuel 12.9 and hit enter. Once you get those two numbers in, hit load, payload, and fuel, and the computer will start computing. Okay, and it's gone and done this for us, but see where it says CG 26.4? That is a number that you're going to need to remember. So these are my flight notes. So what I'm going to do, and by the way, you're going to see this completed flight notes is going to be in the description here on YouTube. You can copy and paste it and create your own notepad out of this. This is just how I keep track of notes on VATSIM flights, and it really kind of helps. So 26.4, we're going to need that number a little bit later on. So we're good to go with that. We're loading our payload and fuel. And so now it's time to start doing what we really like to do in flight simulators, and that's start pushing the buttons. And the way you turn on an Airbus is like you do most of these jetliners. The on switch is batteries. So here they go. Ready? Battery 1, 2, 3. The sounds on this airplane are absolutely amazing. We do have ground power. I'm going to just punch that in on my way down here. Let's get ground power going. Let's look down here. Navigation and logo lights. You know, on an Airbus, we have two identical systems, System 1 and System 2. Lots of different ways that airlines will use this. I generally go and look at the date. Today is the 28-2468. That is an even day. I usually use an even number for an even day. So nav and logo lights are now on. That is a loud airplane, isn't it? And our airplane is slowly coming to life. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look down over here. I like to use the integrated lighting. It makes it a lot easier to see the instruments, to read the instruments. So as I turn this up, isn't that easier to see? If you know you're going to be flying at light, maybe turn up the main instrument and panel floodlights just a bit too. Now we're going to look down here, and below the radio, here's another knob. It says pedestal and panel. So let's turn these up a little bit, and that is going to backlight the pedestal and the upper panel. So you see the upper panel's backlit and the pedestal's backlit. It just makes it so much easier to see. And the last thing is this knob underneath the flight control unit, the FCU. I'm going to turn this thing up as well. And our airplane's coming to life. Now, because we're in an iniBuilds airplane, they use ACARS. And we can go to ACARS main, and you see where it's got my SimBrief username is in there. Let's go ahead and hit request the company route. Uh-oh, there's our company route. Let's request wins while we're on this system. Yeah, it's pending. Ding, ding, ding. Ah, you didn't even need to play the Jeopardy song on that one. Clear this and insert the wind data. ACARS wind data inserted. Clear that. And that's pretty cool. Now, there's other things that we can do, but we're kind of running late on this departure, so I'm going to go to my radio tuning page. Let's look down here. Company route uplink is done. Hit the FMS button. Look and make sure you've got the latest navigation database in there. We do. So I'm going to go to the init page. And nav data is downgraded. That's normal. We got to get the IRSs going. And so there we go. KRD to Boston. Flight level 370, cost index, United 441. It does not have my alternate in, so we got to put in KJFK. I can't type. What's wrong? I think I know. Let's go up here and come up here, and we got to turn on the IRSs. There's one. See that it's on the battery? While these things are powering up, this is when I usually go and do my fire checks. So there's the APU agent light. Here's APU loop A, loop B, and fire alarm. Okay, once that's done, I'll go over and start the IR system number 2. And we're going to go down there and do agent 1. These are the squib light checks. Then we'll look at loop A, loop B, and the fireworks. And that's good. Last stop, we'll go ahead and turn on the number 3 system. They're all on the battery. Engine number 1, squib lights work. Loop A, loop B, fireworks, and that should work too. Great. Now, Airbuses, they've got the ground control for the flight recorder. You click that on, that means that the flight recorder is actually recording you. So if I push the a wrong button or something like that, it's going to record me because I've been known to mess stuff up. And because we're on ground power, we don't want the coffee to get cold and the beer to get hot, so we're going to turn on galley power. Now let's look down here, and it says Align IRS. Align. Now you can clear that, and now I'll bet we can type KJFK. Now we can put in our alternate and return. Cool. Let's go to the flight plan. So according to SimBrief and everything else, we're going to be departing off of runway 10 left. So 10 left is our departure runway. There's 10 left. There are no SIDS or stars here. It's the O'Hare 5 arrival departure. So let's just go and do that. And our first stop is going to be eBake. Now, one of the things that I like to do is, this is about the only time that I will ever pop out a window because I don't want to ruin my immersion here. So I'm going to go to Plan. I'm going to turn on Constraints. I'm going to look out here and pop out this window and set it right down here as I go through the flight plan. And there's our flight plan. Let's go to Boston and our star. Boston currently is landing on 33 left, ILS 33 left. We're on the JFun 2 arrival. Good old J-Fun 2 via Ponct. That's a normal approach into Chicago. And we can also get the Benin transition to the runway. And let's insert all that into the flight plan too. This is going to put you back at the original start. Go through your plan again. Ponct, Stoli, seats. There's all of our things. There's our loop-de-loop back. It's also, if it looks a little weird here, okay, it's because it also puts in our missed approach. And then there's vectors to final out of Benin. And then that takes us in, takes us to missed approach. What a great flight plan. Now, the real pilots are also going to do the secondary. And you can copy the active. I usually just go KORD, the departure airport, the slash mark, and then KORD, and make that my arrival and departure airport, and I'll put that up there. Return, go into the secondary. Our departure runway is runway 10 left. So for the arrival down here, get the star, get 10 left, no stars, no transitions, just insert that. And now you can see all of a sudden we've started the preliminary work on the ILS if we have to turn around and go back to the airport because we lose an engine. There's more things to do in this rabbit hole, but there's the secondary taken care of. You can also put in weather information and forecast. I don't usually do that. And don't hit activate unless you're going to activate the secondary. Back to the main flight plan. And so that's the last thing I'm going to do there. And let's get rid of this. And it's time to go and turn on the APU. So come on down here. APU is down here just like most Airbuses. Do the on switch. It says low pressure in the fuel pump. It's just going to pressurize. Once that's good, you can go ahead and start this. Let's also go over here in the upper panel. This is a passenger airplane. I usually don't fly passengers in these old buses. I'm usually doing cargo. But this is passengers, so I'm going to do no smoking, and I'm going to put that on because basically we're fueling, and United's no smoking. Altimeter here in Chicago is 3015. Let's go and do the altimeter. 3015. Now, if we were in one of the cargo versions of this airplane, one of the things that we would have going on at the moment is we would have cargo loading. Right now, the passengers are essentially loaded. No, they're in their seats. They haven't been drinking too much. I'm going to go ahead and clear this, and let's look and check our fuel. Our fuel is at 12.8. The flight plan said 12.8. Fuel is loaded, and the passengers are kind of loaded too. So we can go ahead and we can go and start doing some more things here. First of all, let's do send this information to takeoff performance, and let's go and call it KORD. Hit enter. What's our departure runway again? It's on my notes, 10 left. It's already put in my takeoff weight. Let's request the current weather. And this is how you get your flex temperature for takeoff. This is also how you get your takeoff speeds. It's really pretty cool. Okay, now here's all of our weather information. We think we're going to go flaps 15 and 15. Air conditioner, that's packs, are going to be on. And our thrust, we want to have flex. So let's compute all those numbers. And this looks pretty good. So we are going to flex. Let's go ahead and send the data to the FMS. Now I'm going to look at this here. I'm going to leave that there for a little bit longer. Let's go down and see what's going on here. Receive takeoff company data. That's pretty cool. Let's clear that. And let's go to the init page and go to page B's. Hit next page. I forget this all the time, and this will kind of mess you up with this airplane. Remember that center of gravity that I originally wrote down? This little number right here, that 26.4, this is where you put it in. 26.4. If you forget to do that, this airplane gets really, really cranky with you. Okay, let's look up here. Remember what our fuel is, 12.8. Let's put in 12.8. That's your block fuel. There's your block fuel. And the zero fuel weight, well, we know what that is. It's 103.6. We put it in. So 103.6 ZFW. That's going to do your takeoff gross weight, That's going to do everything that you need to do. And so now init page B is done. And with that, you can go down and you can look at takeoff and approach, and all of your speeds are in. There's your flex temperature, there's your trim setting. It's all in there. That's pretty cool. Once that's in there, the last thing I'm going to do is remember 165. You might want to just jot that down. 165 KTS. I'd put that in my notes. Let's go back to EFB and ground ops. Let's go to ground services. We're done with the fuel truck. Return. Let's go back here. We're done with, well, I'm not going to go and do external power yet because we're still plugged into external power. Let's go back one more and go to exits. We're loaded cargo, so I'm going to close the doors. Let's also close the main door as well. So we could return there. Back to ground services, pushback. Let's get our pushback truck. Here comes the pushback truck.
Tow is driving up.
Here comes John flying the pushback truck. Let's look down here. GPS primary. I've been waiting for that. So now that GPS primary is done, I'm going to clear that. Let's go up here, and we can now turn on the pitch trim and the yaw dampers. If you try and turn these things on before the GPS is set, before the IRSs are done aligning, they'll just turn off on you. And for a while, I thought I was I was messing something up, but they will just turn off on you. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to start turning on the window heaters. Passengers are in their seats. Let's do seatbelts. That looks good too. Doors are closed. I'm going to arm my doors for departure. Let's get the bleed turned on as well. And this airplane is slowly coming to life. Let's look back over here.
All doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect.
Let's go up here and we can go and do external power. Important safety tip on these and pretty much any other old Airbus or something like that. Before you switch a generator, a power source to something else, make sure your next power source, the light is out. If the light is got fault in it or is off and you click the external power and turn it off, your airplane goes dark and you feel like a real idiot. So do that, and now we can go ahead and plug external power. I'm going to look down here. I'm going to make sure that my brakes remain in place. They are. So I'm going to go ahead, and at this point, I'm going to pull my chocks.
So connected and bypassed and inserted. Release parking brake.
Okay, we're not going to release a parking brake until we're ready to go. Checklist time. Cockpit prep is pretty much done. Well, not quite. We still got a few things to do. It's time to do the flight control unit. First thing to do is our departure runway is runway 10 left. That heading for the runway is 093 degrees. So I want to go to 093 degrees before I'm going to put in my heading. 093. There's 83 and 093. Altitude select. Push the middle of it and put in 5,000 feet first. I know that because the SID that we're on, we're initially cleared to 5,000 feet. Remember that speed that I wrote down? 165 knots? I'm going to set my takeoff speed now, and I'm going to go 165, 175, 185. I want 20 knots above that speed just so that I'm not having to 65, 70, 85. Just because I want to be well above stall speeds. Okay, so we got that set. Last thing to nav accuracy is upgraded. We're done with the alignment process. Now the last thing to do is look down here. My flex temperature is 60. So we're going to come over here and we're going to set our flex for takeoff. And we're going to set flex to 60 degrees. While I'm here, I'm going to look at my arrival chart for Boston and Baston. Altitude is 19 feet above sea level. Well, there's halfway to 100, so I'm just going to leave it at 0. And we're good to go there. Our altimeter is set. Is the backup altimeter set? It is. I have all my altimeters tied together. I think we're ready to go. I'm going to go and do the beacon now. I'm also going to go and I am going to flash the no smoking light. That rings the bell and it lets the flight attendants know that we are serious about moving this airplane. Also, I'm going to squawk 2000. I'm not on VATSIM, but I just squawk mode Charlie when I'm ready to start moving. That way I always remember to do that. And with that, I think we're ready to go. So let's look down here. John Fly is waiting. Parking brake is off.
Starting pushback, and you may start engine.
Jetway is falling away, doors are closed, and there goes our airplane. How about that? Pretty big plane. Unless you're in a big VATSIM event, or, you know, you've got a schedule to keep or something like that, take a second every now and then and just watch the eye candy as it goes by, especially if you haven't had a chance to travel, you know, like a lot of us haven't over the past few years. I think it's a good time to do that. But we also need to get in the airplane and start doing stuff. So it's time to think about starting the engines. So as we look up here, we probably ought to turn on the fuel pumps. Fuel pumps are going to go on, lots of them. Some of them are transfer pumps, but those are on too. Just like an Airbus, the starter, you're going to go to ignition. And I've got these set up on my Airbus controls from Thrustmaster. So let's go ahead and start. And we're going to use system B. And with that, we're going to start engine number 2. And that's I've set that up on my Thrustmaster controls too. They're relatively easy to set up, and I like having them there. Okay, I'm watching the N2 go up here. And like most jet engines, when it hits 20%, you can introduce fuel. 17, 18, 19, and 20. There's 20. Look down there. You see the fuel switch just went up. The fuel switch went up, and that engine is. We've already kicked the tires.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
I was about to do the kick the tires, light the fires thing, John Fly. Jeez. Okay, parking brake is on.
Disconnect.
We didn't get to do the kick the tires and light the fires thing. Never get to have any fun. If you're on VATSIM right now, now's a good time to start thinking about how they're going to taxi you out. And generally on VATSIM, they're going to take us down to the Southport, have us go to Alpha 9. Alpha 9 is going to turn into Kilo 3. Kilo is going to take us off, and usually they're going to take us down to Delta Delta, which means you can do the Delta Delta Delta, can I help you joke if you want, but most VATSIM controllers are not amused by that. So anyhow, DD, Delta Delta, that's probably where we're going to go, and that's going to be how we're going to do that. You just heard maybe a little click. If you look up here, you can see the starter for engine number 2 has gone from blue to white. That means we can start another engine.
Hand signal will be on the right.
Engine 1 starting.
See you next time, and have a great flight.
Okay, push and start done. We will look for a gear pin and salute on the right. Thank you. 3 cheers for John Fly. And we're going to look over here. And there's a number of different voices that come with Better Pushback, which, by the way, is free. It's at xplane.org. Get it. 20. Light the engine. As we do that, let's look over there. There's John Fly. There's our. This is called the push salute and release from guidance. That's what United calls it. I think other airlines call it that too. So right now, John Fly is giving us a thumbs up and holding up the gear pin, and then going to drive away. Part of the salute and release from guidance is they are confirming to the pilots in the airplane that there is nobody underneath the airplane. There is no equipment underneath the airplane, and you can start rolling this thing around and not hurt anybody or damage anything. And that's something that airlines take very seriously. And so you absolutely do not release your brakes until you get the salute and release from guidance. And engine number 2 is going up. Now I did all the before starts, signs, fuel quantity, navigation, altitudes, windows and doors, beacon. Okay, so we got those done. I should have finished that before I hit the start button, but I tend to get distracted. And that's not a good thing in airplanes, I guess. Oh, see that flash? That is the generator switchover. So as the engine speeds up, the airplane automatically switches all the instruments and gear on the left side of the airplane to the left engine. It already did that with the right engine, but it did that with the left engine. And if you look up here, we've got both starters are now white. so we are done with the start. So let's go ahead and get the starter back to normal. We're going to switch over the bleed, switch off the bleed from the APU. That's off, and now we can go ahead and turn off the APU. But before you do that, look over at your generators. Just glance at them. Make sure that the lights on generator 1 and 2 are off. Otherwise, when you go and turn off your APU, your airplane goes dark and you feel like an idiot. And finally, since we know that the airplane, everybody's clear from under the airplane, I'm going to turn on my probe heaters. I've got 2 lights still on, oxygen and an isolation valve, and I'm going to go ahead and clear those. And all the other lights are off. We're ready to go. Shall we? It's taxi time. We already know what our plan is, so let's do nose light for taxi. That's good. I'm going to ring the bell one more time. Cabin crew, let them know we're actually going to start rolling this thing around. Parking brakes are off. My feet were on the toe brakes as I was turning off the parking brakes because I don't want it to start rolling. Now that I'm looking up, and I'm going to advance my throttles, and our airplane is rolling. It is currently, if you look at the clock, it is 15:13 Zulu. We are away from the gate 13 minutes late. Okay, this is a flight simulator game. Why do I care that I've left the gate 13 minutes late? Well, on VATSIM, they're going to fly on VATSIM. One of the things that you've got to deal with is a departure time. And if you're not on time for your departure, that gets to be a bit of a problem. Because they've got so many people on VATSIM that you actually have to keep your airline schedule. So you have to be ready for pushback at least 10 minutes before pushback time. I mean ready for pushback. So anyhow, otherwise you might lose your slot because there's 20 other airplanes ready to take off behind you. My throttles are now down at idle. We're going to go off of this taxi line, and we're going to go over one to the other taxi line here and going over to taxiway Alpha 9. And that should be Alpha 9 right there. Well, I hope it is, otherwise I'm going to be really embarrassed. I know it's... You can also zoom in and see it says Alpha 9. So Alpha 9 over Bravo. After we go over Alpha 9, we're going to bear to the right. And this is going to start turning into, from Alpha 9 to Kilo 3. Now, sometimes I screw this up badly. And also, my scenery is old. So I don't think the Kilo 3 is set up there. So I may need to... You can get lost really easy. Yeah, this is old scenery. I actually needed to go over here. But we were pretty close to being right on this one. So let's go this way. It's okay to screw up like this. If you're on VATSIM and you're worried about screwing up like this, don't worry about it. It could be far worse. All right, there we go. That's better. That looks like Kilo 3. Again, you're going to make a wrong turn. Don't worry about it. You know, the controller may sound impatient with you, but the wrong turn police are not going to come breaking down your door. Okay, so, and if you look, I just caught off the side here. Look at that. It says K. So we're on Kilo. See, that says Kilo 3. That's crazy. We are on taxiway Kilo. We're looking for Delta Delta, flaps for takeoff. So flaps 15 and 15. I've got this set down here. Here come my flaps. Let's also arm the speed brakes for departure. We'll also go to max auto brakes. And if I've done my math, the next available left should be Delta Delta for taxi. After start checks, pitch trim. I didn't set the pitch trim. Okay, pitch trim is supposed to be down 1.6. So here's pitch trim, there's down 1.6. That's a really good thing to do with this airplane. While you're at it, go down here and just hit the reset button on the rudder trim. Start slowing it down a bit here. Pitch trim, rudder trim, spoilers are set, flaps are set, the ECAP status is clear. Anti-ice is good, the hand signal is good. So that was all good. And look at that, Kilo Delta Delta. So we're looking good here. There is a takeoff config test like other Airbuses. It's a little awkward to see and do. Let's go ahead and we're going to do the takeoff config test after we get ready over here. So here's Delta Delta. And the reason they'll take you off here at Delta Delta is you don't need the big old full length of the runway and it shortens your taxi time. Kind of keeps the traffic moving a little faster. Okay, there is our hold short point. Look down here. Here's this button and look at the ECAM. If it's green, then your airplane is set up. And you got to look at you got to be able to click it and look at it at the same time, because once you release the button, the ECAM goes back. It doesn't hold it there, so you can't look and click the button and then look up to see it. And here comes our hold short. 10 left at Delta Delta. Uh-oh, there is a taxi light in the middle of the scenery. That could be bad. Okay, I think we're good to go. Before takeoff, flight controls have been checked. The briefing has been totally destroyed and botched, but okay. Slats and flaps are set. Performance FMS is set. Takeoff config button was clicked, and the transponder is on, but we don't have traffic on. So see where it says ATC1, click it, and do traffic. Back to tuning. Okay, cabin is secure, TCAS is on, packs are going to be on, ignition can be normal, anti-ice isn't needed at the moment, but we're going to keep an eye out for that. I say it's flying time. So at this point, ATC's cleared us to do that takeoff thing. So when I am cleared to go onto an active runway, I turn on my strobes. I do strobes then. And some airplanes have the landing lights that drop down out of the bottom of the wing. So there's the first click on your landing lights. That's those little things going bzzz. They don't make that sound, I guess, but I want those down and ready to go. If it was snowing outside, I might have waited until now to lower my flaps. You don't want a bunch of snow and stuff to get jammed up in your flaps. So some pilots will wait until, if it's snowing and there's a lot of junk on the taxiways, they will wait until they get on the runway and delay flap deployment just to keep, you know, snow and ice from jamming up their flaps. I'll save you the flap joke. All right, we are lined up, looking good. Landing lights to full. That lets everybody know this airplane's serious about doing that flying thing. Lean back, put your hand on the stick. Throttles up about halfway. I'm going to see that my engines are spooling up and stable. I'm going to continue to push my throttles up to 40% on the N1, and then I'm going to engage the auto throttle button. That's the button right here on the flight control unit. If you're on your takeoff roll and all of a sudden you notice that your nose is coming up, that means you didn't set the takeoff trim. I've got a lot of left rudder right now. 100 knots. And I wish airplanes had call-outs. V1 and rotate. I really wish that a lot of designers would put in V1 and rotate callouts. We need to be watching the runway, not our airspeed. Okay, I've got my flight directors coming up. I've got them centered. They're very nice. That's runway heading. I'm going to hit a heading select. And let's do gear first. So gear's going up. Now we'll do heading select. We'll do autopilot. I'm going to go and dial my map out. Let's go down here, and we're going to do direct to eBake. Insert, navigation. Now we're going to go direct to eBake. At this point in time, we might be cleared up to 10,000 feet. How about 15,000 feet? So we're going to say that we're cleared up to 15,000 feet. Our speed is 185. I'm going to go ahead and pop this up to about 240. As the airplane continues to accelerate, we can go ahead. We're not going back to the airport. Disarm speed brakes. How about flaps 1? Or in this case, flaps up. The slats are still going to be out at 15. There's 5,000 feet. Seatbelts, no smoking. Landing lights are still on till 10,000 feet. Ooh, TAT, total air temperature, is in icing range. If we start finding ourselves in clouds, and it's kind of hazy out here, I don't think that there's a huge penalty, and I'd rather not ice up my engines. So I'm going to turn on my engine anti-ice right now. I think that that's more of a safety thing, and like I said, maybe there is a penalty in terms of fuel efficiency, but seriously. Okay, the other thing we should probably have done now is we need to go over here, and we need to go and we do CL for climb, and then this is also when I'm going to put my landing gear in neutral. You can have this thing go into auto mode. I have not successfully done auto mode. It has been a problem. The airplane got cranky with me. But you can actually have the engine controls in auto mode. Perhaps if I were to read the manual, I would know more. Passing 8,000 feet. ATC just called. They've cleared us up to 25,000 feet. And everything is really pretty good. There's 250 knots. Flaps should go up. And now I'm going to go ahead, and at this point, we are now cleared to our final cruising altitude, flight level 370. And I'm going to hit the profile button. Watch the speed light go out. Speed has gone out. 10,000 feet, landing lights are going off. Let's do the nose light. Let's also do, I usually do a 10,000 foot cabin call. That is usually the captain saying to the flight attendants, we're at 10,000 feet. And this is when the flight attendants get on the microphone and saying the airplane is continuing to climb. The seatbelt sign is still on. So those of you idiots that don't think that applies to you, know you can't go to the bathroom until the seatbelt light is off. While you're sitting there waiting for the seatbelt light to go off, there is a application for our corporate credit card in the seat pocket in front of you. Please don't look at the terms and conditions, just sign up for it. I'm sorry, was I being Captain Sarcastic there? Jeez. Okay, let's hit the airports button. We're out of the airport zone, and I'm going to go ahead and I want to see airports nearby. If I lose an engine, I want to see an airport so that I can start heading for the airport to land. Passing 13,000 feet, our speed is now climbing. We'll go over here to the progress page. Everything's looking good. These old school Airbuses were built at the time when computers, of course, were just coming online. The aircraft manufacturers love the idea of computers, and I think a lot of pilots did too, but they still were not proven. Keep in mind, this airplane first flew in 1982. Would you trust your computer from 1982? So there is a lot of duplication here. And predominantly, it's the old steam gauges that are in control of the airplane. That's what you look at first. but the computers were slowly starting to take over. Our departure is really getting pretty good here. How did I know about 5,000? So as you look at your charts and stuff, my chart list, so here's our parking chart. Here is our airport chart. Here's the SID. Oh my gosh, look at that bowl of spaghetti. Well, we took off and we're basically going, take off and going to eBay. How did I know about 5,000 feet? Well, in the big old list of your, of all of your charts, so if you look and see, there is the O'Hare 7 departure. Almost always beneath it, there's something called SID PT. And SID PT is basically your instructions for how to do the SID. It's the O'Hare 7 departure. It's going to give you some frequencies, but it's going to give you your initial climb. And this is where you go and find out your initial climb. So when you're getting your clearance, and you say Roger, Roger, and part of that clearance was climb via the SID, that means basically you should have looked at that chart and known that in this case, our initial climb is 5,000 feet. So that's what that meant. We're past 18,000 feet, so we can go over here, hit the center, and that's altimeters are 2992. I'll look at the backup. It's set to. There's a setting within settings on the iniBuilds airplanes to just tie all of your altimeters together. Seriously, if I had a co-pilot, I'd leave my altimeters separate like they're supposed to be, but I'm just one person, and on a VATSIM event, I don't have time. Okay, we're coming up on eBake. You can see we have a top of climb hockey stick here. There's the top of climb hockey stick right there. I don't know exactly where hockey stick came from. The first time that I read it was in a book about Airbuses written by United Airlines Captain Mike Ray. Captain Ray has a number of books about different airplanes, and if they're meant mostly for people going on their first check ride to try and get a job as an airline pilot. But Captain Ray discovered that sim pilots like his books too. So you can get a simulated version, which I don't think is as expensive as the pilot version, but it's got really great information. So Mike Ray may not be the first, but the first time I read about the top of climb and top of descent indicators in Airbuses, he called it the hockey sticks. So, and the thing is while that might sound stupid and maybe a little bit too cute, for us humans, a silly little thing that's cute and silly to remember, that helps you remember stuff. And so that's why I kind of enjoy those things. 25,000 feet, okay, unless there's turbulence, generally on my airplanes, that's when I'm going to do seatbelts. We're out of the clouds, so I'm going to go ahead and do anti-ice. You may also hear that they're doing announcements behind us. This airplane comes with announcements. And as soon as we get to final cruise, we'll go and we'll take a little tour of the airplane. Passing 27,000 feet. Let's go down here and do the after takeoff and climb checklist. Slats and flaps, they are up. We can be like real pilots and visually confirm them on the instrument. Landing gear is up and neutral. This is an old school Airbus, and old school Airbuses are like old Boeing. Some Boeings have landing gear is up, down, and off. Well, here in Airbuses, they call it neutral, the old Airbuses. Now, the newer Airbuses, they just, you know, your landing gear is up, it takes care of turning it off automatically. But here, we have to put it in neutral. When you're just looking like that, it looks like my gear may be down, but that's what that's all about. So we got that there. Packs are on, and altimeters have both been reset. Packs and stuff are all up here, and generally, they are completely the pneumatics on this thing are like totally automatic. If I wanted to, I could have turned off my air conditioning packs for takeoff. But this is a passenger jet, so I generally leave my packs on because we care about the comfort of our passengers. I'm sorry, there's Captain Sarcastic again. Jeez, how did Captain Sarcastic get aboard this flight? Everything's looking good. The only thing I've got on is no smoking. One of the things you can do in X-Plane that they haven't set up in Microsoft Flight Simulator, hint, hint, is the flyby. Again, United Airlines never flew the A310. Bet some of them wish they did. But this is what it would have looked like in the old battleship gray livery. This is a favorite livery amongst an awful lot of the flight simmers for United, is the battleship gray. Passing 34,000 feet, we're going to flight level 370 on our climb. Some information here while we're waiting to get to final cruise. There's a little block of information that I've copied off my flight plan, and on the old United Airlines style, it's right here at the top. It's your flight schedule. And again, eventually, if you're going to get on VATSIM, you're going to want to take part in Cross the Pond. So out, off, on, in. That's how the airlines keep track of time. And there's two numbers there. There's Zulu time and local time. So out time was 1500 Zulu or 9 a.m. local time in Chicago. That's when you're supposed to be pushing back out of the gate. Off, that's when they want your wheels to be taking off. So out, off. So wow, they had 45. Okay, I know why there's 45. I was going to say, wait a minute, why isn't it? I add like 45 minutes of extra time to my flight, to my fuel for pushback. That's why. I always add this so I have a little bit of extra fuel. We're supposed to be landing in Boston at 17:09 Zulu or 12:09 local time. And we're supposed to be at the gate, parked, doors open at 17:15 Zulu. Unless I've gotten a massive late departure on this, I'm pretty much able to hit that time. And this is my flight route, flight level 370. Our duration is 1 hour and 36 minutes. I put in distance. My cost index for this flight was, actually it's measured in Mach, not really cost index, it's Mach 80. There's my zero fuel weight fuel, REMF, remaining fuel. Okay, if you've been flying with me on the spy flight, you know that I make kind of a big deal about that, and here is why. We're at our final cruising altitude, so now the captain's going to get on the PA and say, we're at our final cruising altitude. There's Captain Sarcastic again. Okay, so in this case, though, we need to go over here and we need to manually put this into cruise mode. So let's take it out of climb mode, cruise mode. And you might see these numbers change just a little bit for cruise. But let's go down here and I'm going to hit a special button. It's the fuel prediction button. Again, this is a prediction, but it says when we get to Boston, we should have 5.6 kgs of fuel, 5.6 tons of fuel in the fuel tanks. Okay. So I've noticed that this number kind of goes up and down a little bit, and it goes up and down a little bit too much for me sometimes. What this translates into is the REMF fuel, this little number here. Let's jump down a remaining fuel rabbit hole for just a second here, because if you're going to fly across the pond, this is going to be important. So if you look here at my fuel for our destination, and we're going to get Mr. Calculator to help with this because it's early in the morning and I haven't had that much coffee. Here's my remaining fuel. Gate fuel, this is how much fuel, this one right here, that's how much fuel we boarded when it was time to take off. That's how much when the fuel truck came up and we said, fill her up, 12.9 tons of fuel. Okay. So, but the remaining fuel, that 5.439, that's a combination of three numbers here. First of all, we need 2.7 tons of fuel to get to our alternate JFK. So 2763 plus FAR, This is also holding fuel, go around fuel, 1648. That's for 30 minutes of extra flying. So plus 1648 plus. And then 15 minutes of extra fuel. This is an extra 15 minutes of, you know, oh my God, 1028. 1028 equals 5439. 5439 is our remaining fuel. So if we fly to Boston and we get to the gate and we didn't have to hold, we didn't have to go around, we didn't have to divert, and we didn't need 15 extra minutes of, you know, please, I don't want to crash, you know, time, we should have 5.4 tons of fuel in the tank. So that's where that number comes from. Thank you, Mr. Calculator. Let's get this over here. And now we're going to go and look down here. So this is an estimate, and it's labeled, it's stuck at 5.9. If you're on a long haul and you start seeing your fuel numbers start going down dramatically, that means that you might not make it across the Atlantic Ocean. So for an across the pond flight, I add a minimum of 3 tons of extra fuel. The last time I took this airplane on across the pond flight, I added 7. And I stayed above my estimated fuel on board. So, you know, that's going to be, the weather's going to change, the wind's going to change. Maybe I'm just messing something up, I don't know. But, so for across the pond, a minimum of 3,000 pounds, 3 tons of fuel, depending upon your airplane. And be generous with yourself. Just because you don't want to run out of fuel. Nobody wants to, you know, do magic refueling in the middle of a across the pond flight. Okay, enough about my fuel rabbit hole. Let's go in down here and we're going to go back to progress. We are 659 nautical miles out from our destination. If you look at the top screen, it says we've got 1 hour and 9 minutes of flying time. That is an estimate based on this application here, Sim Toolkit Pro, which, by the way, is free. This is a free application. This has been growing for, I think, several years now, and it's really pretty good. This is going to show you a little bit of snow over Michigan, your route of flight. There's your estimated time en route. ETE, estimated time en route. A really cool little resource. It also acts as a fleet manager. It also works fairly seamlessly. 90%, 98% seamlessly. Sometimes there's an occasional hiccup between Sim Toolkit Pro and Sim Brief, but mostly they play nicely together. This is a great free thing to do. This is also where I'm going to get weather. So I can go and do KBOS Boston and hit the METAR button. And here's weather in Boston. Winds 310 at 15, gusting to 23. Good visibility. There's a couple of clouds at 4,000. Temperature is 6 below. The altimeter 3022. I will almost always keep a copy of my arrival weather in my cute little flight notes here. Boy, is this a comfort, so that I can see what's going on. There is another resource, though, that I want to show you here. This is a really good one. So I'm going to get rid of this, and let's get ourselves a web browser, and let's go to a place called METAR-TAF. Let's see what the weather's going to be like. So KBOS, General Edward Logan. And we know that right now we're planning 3-3 left. So here, let's do the ILS 3-3 left. Look at that. So this is showing the wind right now at Boston as whistling right down the runway at about 15 knots, gusting to 23. Sounds a little like the METAR we just rattled off, huh? It also visually shows you where the clouds are. This is a really handy way of being able to visualize what the wind is going to do to you on landing. And if you're new to all of this, this is a really great resource. METAR-TAF.com. It's really, this is up here in my toolbar favorites. It's up there as my favorites. So that's a great way to visualize what's going to happen as far as the wind on landing. It also shows that our landing runway, 3-3 left, probably a pretty good choice for landing runway. Okay, looking at the flight plan. We are going, we just passed Paddle. We're going to the VOR station SVM. We've got DKK and Punked. That's the beginning of the transition into the JFun 2 arrival. So according to the estimated time en route, now it's 1 hour and 7 minutes. Let's look at this airplane. So 2-seater cockpit, really extensive upper panel. I haven't really skipped anything in the upper panel here. Looking over here, there's APU controls. We've got a observer seat, and we've got a door. Let's open the door. And there's another observer seat over here. Is it just me, or do observer seats not look very comfortable? They just don't look very comfortable to me. Sadly, the bathrooms, the toilets do not flush like they do in the FlyJ Sim Q400, but I assume that will become a standard that all designers are going to be going for someday. You can go ahead and open the door if you want. There's Captain Sarcastic again. So yes, we do have a toilet here. And if you close the door, it kind of slams a little bit. So let's look around over here. We got a galley. So here's the first class galley. Oh, we've got coffee machines, and all of these are locked, so I can't go in and get any first class snacks. Here is flight attendant jump seats by the front door. For takeoff, they would have these curtains open so that they can make sure the passengers were behaving. Here's first class. Very nice first class seating here. I've only been upgraded to first class once. Look at this. This is probably one of the first times I've ever seen this. This cabin is so nicely modeled. The seats are actually numbered. Usually they just have the A and C. They just have the, they actually numbered the seats in this. I think that's pretty awesome. Let's go back here. Here is Economy Plus. So this is going to be for probably another inch or maybe 2 of legroom. And maybe a little bit better quality coffee. And then this is steerage. Full economy. You notice the sound changes a little bit as you go back. Okay, here's the way the seats are on this one. If you look at the seating chart on this, I think this is seating, yeah. So the seating chart that I have here is a tad bit different. It's got 2 on the end, and it's got 3 in the middle. Oh, this is exactly right. Although what this doesn't have is this has, okay. So this one actually has 3 out here, and that seating chart had it 2 all the way down there. Maybe this one, did the seating chart have, so it has, okay. So the seating chart has 4 in the middle. This has 3 in the middle, so that's why. That's why. Okay, I was gonna say there was something a little bit different about these. So, hey, we figured that mystery out. Let's keep going back here. I don't think that the overhead bins open. Some airplanes now, the overhead bins are actually opening in these. Here's our back galley. The sound even changes here in the back galley too. Some more storage. And then we can come around here. And if you look down, you can see that they've included a really cool monitor for the passengers. So this basically gives the passengers the current time. Yep, 1546. That's current time. The current temperature outside the airplane is minus 56 degrees Celsius. I'm sure that freaks a few of them out. It tells us that this is an A310. Passengers like to know what they're on. Time elapsed is 0:24 minutes. Our distance to destination, a nice little countdown, and our estimated arrival time is at 17:16 Zulu. Right now, our off, on, out, our out, off, on, in, say that 3 times fast, says that we're supposed to be there at 17:15. So right now, we're a minute late. Let's see if we can catch up that minute when we get there. So this is a neat little thing that they put together, and they've got some big screen TVs. This airplane was made obviously before the days of a monitor in the seat in front of you. We'll go up here. There's Economy Plus. They got their own monitor. Oh, this is interesting. A lot of airplane designers nowadays are doing this too. If the seatbelt sign is off, the seatbelt light in your cabin's going to be off. If the no smoking is on, so the seatbelt lights are working. I think that's, a cool little development there. And then first class has another thing like that too. First class did have monitors, I guess. So there is the cabin. How about that? And as usual, they hid the pizza and beer from me. And back we go here. We're going to be good pilots and close the door. Sometimes you have to get it from another angle. And there we go. I don't usually lock my simulated cockpit doors because I live in hope that the flight attendants will bring me free pizza and beer. Spoiler alert, they never do. And everything's good. Let's go and see what we're doing here. Progress. We are 577 nautical miles out. Let's see if my fuel is going to freak me out. 6.0. It went up a little bit. Since I started adding 45 minutes of taxi time and stuff like that, extra fuel time, it started being pretty good. Now, one of the things that you can do is instead of adding 45 minutes of taxi time, there's captain time and extra fuel time. I have not been able to successfully fill these two boxes through Sim Toolkit Pro. Now, if I wanted to do my flight planning directly into SimBrief, you can do that. But I do it this way because that's the only way I can get extra fuel in here, at least that I've been able to figure out. Maybe I just need to learn how to use Sim Toolkit Pro better. So there you go. There is a nice tour. We have got a nice departure. And we are at cruise. We've got about an hour's worth of flying time. So at the moment, according to the flight plan, our next checkpoint is Ponte and then Stoli. If we go and look up here, we can go and crank this up to 240. The top of descent hockey stick has not shown up here in the map yet. So we don't have that there. Generally, I start making my preparations when the top of descent hockey stick gets right about here, a little before the 80 nautical mile range contour line. So what I usually do on these cold and dark videos is I'm going to hit the pause button for you. I'm not going to do anything except go and get more coffee maybe some breakfast or something like that. And then as that top of descent hockey stick gets to about 100 miles away, then I'll hit start again, and you will, and so that way you don't have to sit here and watch me drink coffee, because, that would certainly be riveting here on YouTube. So I'm going to leave this in progress. I'm going to actually leave it in fuel prediction so that, see, we dropped down again. But we haven't gone down to that 5.4. 5.4 is when I start freaking out about, oh my gosh, we're going to lose the fuel game. So that's that. We're in cruise, gears up, flaps are down. Passengers are being fed a nice packet of stale crackers. The first class passengers are getting liquored up. All is good in the friendly skies. So, see you in a little bit. Well, for you, it's just been a matter of seconds, but it's about a half an hour later for me. Thank you for coming on back. We are back. Oh, boy, I didn't want that one. I wanted this one. That's just too big this early in the morning. Okay, as promised, the top of descent hockey stick is now within about 80 miles. So we are coming up on Ponct. That is the beginning of the approach. So it's time to start briefing our approach. That's what the real pilots are going to be doing now. They'll also be cleaning up the cockpit because they'll have to go to sterile cockpit. I think that also means they're putting their drink cups away, maybe finishing up the coffee, getting things out of the room. So here is our approach. And we're coming in on the JFund 2 arrival. There's Ponct, there's Stoli, there's Double, there's Autumn, there's Winter. And as we kind of come around here, here is the runway for 33. So there's Brody, Beach, and Skidoo, I guess. So one of the things to do is, once you know that all of this is going on, it's a good idea, I found, to just take a second, look in your flight plan, make sure that you see those last few. There's Winter, there's Harris, Spiced, maybe? There's Beach, Brody, Beach, and Skidoo. Okay, then vectors, and then our approach into the runway, which is Brennan, Cohos, and Nimoy. Let's see if that's what we have on the approach. Just make sure, yep, there it is. Brennan, Cohos, and Nimoy. So it's a really good idea to just go and look and see, especially if you're going to be in a big old VATSIM event. Make sure that all of that is ready to go, so that when things start to get super busy in the cockpit, you don't discover that the wrong transition got installed. So that really can be a problem. It's come back and bit me before. So next thing to do is let's also start getting ready for the ILS. Now, another thing to do is, if you are on VATSIM, if you can go into something like VAT Prism or SimAware on the internet and take a look at the digital ATIS. If there's ATC at the airport that you're going to, if you can go and check that, just verify. Yeah, they're still landing on runway 33 left. That'll save you a little bit of grief too, especially in some of the old school Boeings when you have to reprogram the SIVA. Boy, that's fun. But now we're pretty well certain we're going to be landing on 33 left. So 110.7, that is going to be the ILS frequency. And you have to manually set it in this old bird. And it's right over here. So 110.7. 110.7. Okay, the next thing to do is to come on over here, get your inbound course. That's this number right here, 330, going into the runway. So let's go ahead and set 330. 330. Okay, that's another good thing taken care of. I'm going to go back to progress. We're 217 nautical miles out from our top of descent, from the airport, not top of descent. Top of descent, we're coming up on, it's 80 or so. So we need to start getting serious about this descent thing. Another part of the descent briefing is to take a look at your chart again. And again, let's go ahead and clear out the Chicago stuff. I think we're not going back to Chicago. That's another thing that I will do, is I will clear stuff out of my notes and my charts here. That really helps. So let's look at the star here, and over on the star, we have to be above flight level 240, 17, 14, there's JFund, and we keep coming down here, Autumn and Winter, there's a couple of altitudes there. At Spiced, 7,000 feet and 220 knots. Keep going around here, and the bottom of our star is 5,000 feet. So, if we were on VATSIM, they might say that we are clear to descend on the JFund 2 arrival, Ponct transition for runway 33 left. What that tells me is that I'm now clear to descend at my discretion, and usually they'll even say the word my discretion. I means that I can start my descent when I'm ready, but I follow those constraints going down, and I'm basically cleared down to the end of the star, which is 5,000 feet and 210 knots. So let's go over here, and we're going to hit 5,000 feet. So here comes 5,000 feet. That's good. Now, if you look over here, on the A319, 20, 21, you got to hit the button. The Airbus wants the pilot to say, yes, it's okay to descend. This old bird will let you arm a descent. Now, I don't know if there's a way to arm it in a 319, 20, or 21. Don't know about that, but in this one, I know you can. And you see over here where it says P altitude, I'm going to guess that that's programmed altitude and program speed, unless the P means something else, and maybe that's in the bathroom, but that's a pretty bad joke, and I shouldn't do that. What we can do is we can go and program a descent. This is really easy. So you see my pointer right here in the middle? It's the typical mouse pointer. Watch as I move my pointer over to the altitude knob. See how it made a down arrow button? Click it once. Now look back over here, and if you look at the top thing here, it's now said P descent. Now this airplane will start the descent. If we've got 5,000 feet in there, it will start the descent, so you can actually arm the descent. And so we're good to go there. That's kind of cool. Again, I don't know if there's a way to do that in an A319, 2021. Actually, I believe that this is something you can do in the A310 because there is this P descent thing that shows up here. And I can't imagine that the developers put that in there just for my convenience. Maybe they did, and I didn't read the manual. So I'm always guilty of not failing to read the manual. Now, remember earlier we went over here and we got the Boston METAR by clicking this button. Let's look at another way to do this, and that is one of the cool ways to do this in this airplane. So we're going to go down to the radio. We're going to go to ACARS ATC, and we're going to make a weather request. Now, if we were on VATSIM, we could get the ATIS if they had a digital ATIS from the airport through this system. That's really, really geeky cool, okay? But we're not on VATSIM, so we're going to ask for the METAR. And now we got to put in the airport code, KBOS. Put that in the box here and hit send. Now let's return. Look at this. It already has appeared there. Click it. There is our METAR. And we can go one step further. The printer works on this airplane, so let's hit print. Listen carefully. You hear the printer going? There is our METAR. Winds 310 at 14, 10 miles visibility, few clouds at 4,000, -5, -18, temperature and dew point, altimeter 3023. Now, listen carefully as I go, and let me turn up the volume a bit. You tear it off, and now guess what? It's right up here. And you can replace that with new METARs, new ATISes. That's 4,000 feet. Yeah, a few clouds at 4,000. Duh. I need more coffee, clearly. Okay, so we have pretty much set up our descent. The ILS is good. It's in there. You know what? Before we start our descent, let's see if it's freak out time about the fuel. 5.6. Remember, the flight plan says 5.4. So we lost a few points going in, but we didn't lose that much. We still have not invaded our minimum fuel. So as long as we haven't invaded minimum fuel, I'm feeling pretty good about what's going on here. Nothing really to do up here. Before the descent, we may want to go and ring the bell and say, do a attendant call. So there's a call to the attendants. Let them know, hey, we're going to start that descent thing. That's a nice thing to do. We may also, at this point in time, make a call back to the cabin. Although I've noticed a lot of the domestic United flights that I do, the pilots don't make the descent call back until they're ready to turn on the seatbelt sign. That way, the seatbelt sign goes off as the pilots are making the call. I think they want to do those simultaneously when they feel that they have the passenger's attention. Because, you know, most people are clueless. So maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. Everything else, I think, is pretty good. We're really good. We can go over here, and we can go and go to the main page, the flight ops menu, and we could go to landing perf. Now this is a little bit harder. First of all, we can click FMC data, and this is going to go and give us our landing weight. Let's go over here. It says K Boston, 33 left. It got all sorts of great information. Let's request weather. So it loaded our runway from the flight plan and gave us our landing weight. That's new for me. There's been a few updates. That's new for me, and I think it's cool. So configuration, we're planning on slats 30, flaps 40 degrees, auto brakes low, and reverses idle. Let's look at the numbers. So what all is this going to tell us? This means that our VAP approach speed is 136 knots. Our landing distance is 1,941 meters. So we've got all sorts of space. Let's take a look over at the chart and have a look. Boston's runway that we're going to be landing on is 3,073 meters. Wow. So we've got a stop margin. This is pretty cool. So this gives us all of that information. I think that this is actually really neat. I haven't seen this part before. It hasn't worked this well for me. I'm going to leave this on checklist though, and we're going to come up here because we're going to have an approach checklist to deal with in just a bit. And while I was busy geeking out about, the electronic flight bag, we have gone to P descent, so program descent, and we are on our way down. At this point, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to switch the map to 60 miles, and I'm going to click constraints from airports. And this is going to show our constraints in here. So we got to be above flight level 240. Some of these are hard to read. So above flight level 240 at Minsta. At seats, we have to have our speed to 280, and we need to be above flight level 210, 21,000 feet. This is an interesting thing too. This is called vertical deviation. And right now this thing is pegged at the bottom. Usually at the beginning of the descent, it's pegged at the bottom. But sometimes you might need to help it along. I normally won't touch this, but I'm going to go ahead and put my hand on my speed brake knob, and I'm going to go speed brakes 1. And that's going to increase, that way our speed doesn't go up, but it might increase our rate of descent just a bit. This airplane works very, very well with the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus system controls. I really like it. If that doesn't move very much, I may go to another notch of speed brakes. If you look over here, you can see my speed brakes are out. Something that the real world pilots suggest, if you've got the Airbus throttle set up and it's got the speed brake handle, real world pilots say that when they have to throw out the speed brakes like this on a descent, the guideline, I don't think it's a rule, the guideline is keep your hand on the speed brake knob until you return the speed brakes to the down position. Because you might forget that your speed brakes are out, and that messes up all your landing numbers. So if you've got the cool little Airbus TCA, Airbus Thrustmaster stick and throttle, keep your hand on the speed brake until you're ready to put the speed brakes down. And there, speed brakes are no doubt up. You can see my little speed brakes up there on the wings. Now, if you take a look, it shows vertical deviation is now slightly above the line, but it's not going up a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just leave it there. We're at 28,000 feet. We're okay at the moment. I don't know if it's going to want more. Okay, now I'm hearing the engine spool up. At that point in time, put your speed brakes down. So my speed brakes are down, hands off the controls. Passing 28,000 feet. Again, my little sim captain rule is if there's turbulence, I've got seatbelts on. If there's no turbulence, I usually wait till around 25,000 feet to kick the seatbelts on. That way, the passenger back there that drank a little too much coffee, needs to go to the bathroom before landing. That's a passenger comfort thing. There's no reason to have them locked into their seats at the moment. But as we approach 25,000 feet, that's when I'm going to go ahead and pop that in there. And in fact, that's close enough. Seatbelts. I just got a text message. Oh, I don't know if it's important. Oh. I thought I got a text message. Sounded like I got one. Guess not. Maybe it was one of those mysterious things. Okay, so we're looking pretty good here. Our speed right now is 3 and change. And look at that, the vertical deviation's going down again. I'm gonna throw my speed brakes back out. Speed brakes are back out, and I think that what's going on is the airplane wants to try and slow down to get to 280 knots here. So it needs a little help doing that and maintain our descent profile. And you can see now it's all the way pegged at the bottom. So speed brakes are going to stay out here. Notice if you look over here, this is what I call a tan line. You see how things are really green, and so, well, that doesn't, I don't know if that's an actual tan line or just a scenery error. Usually when you see a line like that, that's the line between default scenery and ortho scenery. And I don't know if that's if that is or not, but they're really, really easy to notice. Okay, our speed is coming down. We're back on our vertical deviation, but I'm going to keep the speed brakes out until I see that we're down to 280 knots. There's 300. That's pretty close to 280. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put those away. Looking up here, I've got seat belts and no smoking. Everything else is in the normal spot. We've got strobes, beacons, navs. Everything else is off. No lights have turned on up there. It's a good indicator that we haven't, blown anything up. We're looking good here. 5.6 is my estimated fuel on board when we get into the airport. I think we're going to be fairly close to winning the fuel game. We're holding 280 knots. Vertical deviation's dropped a little bit. How about one click of speed brakes? Just to keep this going. I swore I heard the text sound. Oh well, hearing things. See, while we're here, we could also, I'm going to go to 30 miles now. Makes stuff easier to see. If we were coming up into a mountainous area, lots of hills and stuff like that, I'd probably turn on my terrain radar. It's rather flat out here. We got another speed reduction there at Autumn to 270 knots. So now I've just got my speed brakes barely up a bit. So just a little bit of drag coming on in. 18,000 feet, reset the altimeter. Look over here. Altimeter 3023. 3023, altimeters are set for 18,000 feet. As soon as I'm done clicking, hand is going back on the speed brake lever. I don't want to forget, I've actually forgotten. And it does mess up your landings a bit. It won't kill you, but it could. And it does make for a messier landing. And my landings are messy enough. Okay, we're looking pretty good. Vertical deviation is fairly good. Coming into Autumn. Nothing really to worry about there. Estimated fuel on board, we lost another click though, 5.5. And that 5.4 only has to be there for landing. So if it's 5.4 on landing, you win. If it's below 5.4 when the wheels touch down, then at that point in time, if this thing, took care of taxi in fuel a little bit better, and maybe my mistake is I need to put taxi in time too. I'm just learning that thing, and if I get a little better at it, maybe my fuel numbers are going to work out better. So vertical deviation is now up above there, but we still have to reduce our speed to 270. We're actually at about we're 280 now. I'm not hearing the engines spooling up or anything, so that's good. Coming into clouds, let's look down here. It says TAT in icing range. TAT is minus 14. That is actually we're in the zone. So let's not ice up. Let's do engine anti-ice. We'll keep the ice in the margarita glasses where it belongs. I still have 1 notch of speed brake out. And if I'm clicking something, I'll take my hand off the speed brake knob. But right now, if I don't need it, I'm resting it on the speed brake knob. Nothing weird in here. Let's go over here, take off and approach. Our MDA for the runway. We should have actually done this earlier. MDA is at the bottom of your ILS chart. We're going to make it a Category 1 approach, 220. So 220. We'll pop that in there. You can also set a decision height on the top up here. You can also set that up here. I don't know if you're supposed to set both. I think the one at the top is a radar altimeter, perhaps. Just speculating on that, though, as I will often do. There's Winta coming up on Spiced. I'm going to go ahead and put the speed brakes down, and let's see what it does to our vertical deviation. We've got a speed reduction coming up too. It's 250 knots at Winta, but as we come up on 10,000 feet, and at Winta we're actually supposed to be below 10,000 feet, above 8,000 feet. And this airplane really does a good job of keeping you where you're supposed to be on your approach. It looks like vertical deviation is kind of holding right now. Looks like we're losing a little bit of ground. We may need to do another small, the first click of speed brakes to keep us in where we're supposed to be. If we were on VATSIM now, they would, center would probably be kicking us over to approach control. At which point we could do the approach checklist. Passenger signs are on, the briefing has been done, the ECAM status is clear. Altimeters are set, minimums are set in there too. Ignition, if it were raining, we would turn it on to continuous relight. And we did set our landing elevation. The approach checklist is done. And with airplanes like this and the Q400 from FlyJSim, the old school 737s from FlyJSim, the Fella 7, those checklists will absolutely save you because there's so much to remember. Coming up on 10,000 feet now. So 10,000 feet, we're going to go ahead and do our landing lights. And I'm going to turn on the little nose light. It's off right now while the gear is up. As soon as the nose gear comes down, that's going to turn on as well. Okay, how's everything looking here? Pretty good. Yeah, not bad so far. Says less drag. Sometimes it will tell you that. It said less drag, so we had too much, so let's go ahead and clear that and put the speed brakes away. There's 250 knots. At this point in time, there is a chance that air traffic control is going to speed you up and slow you down now. Even though the star says, you know, we're supposed to be at 220 knots up there at Spiced. The thing is, they could tell us to go to keep it up to 250 or slow it down, and that's all for moving the traffic in and around the area. So that's what that's all about. If you look over there, I think we're starting to see a little bit of Boston. Boston? Yeah, I always mess up that accent. Our speed's good. Now I'm going to do my last click on the map. 10,000 feet, that's when the real pilots are probably doing that sterile cockpit thing, so I think that includes taking drinks of coffee. It is all about the airplane now. So I just violated the sterile cockpit rule. The sterile cockpit police are going to be breaking down the door any minute. Usually I will leave this, especially on VATSIM, on the tuning page, because you're going to be changing frequencies. Another thing that I will do on a VATSIM event is I try and figure out if there is an airplane that's going the same place that I'm going. When I hear that there's another airplane going and they're ahead of me, if I hear that flight getting changed over to another frequency, I might go and put that frequency in my standby or recall frequency. Keep in mind, this cockpit is built for 2 people, and I don't have somebody here to work the radios for me. So if I can use a little bit of my Sherlock Holmes power of deduction to come up with, my next frequency is going to be approach at 127.8. I'm going to put that in, especially in a moment like this, because I have a few moments to catch up. Because sure enough, when I'm busy and I've got to do stuff, that's when ATC is going to want me to change frequencies. So if you're ready to go, that's just one of those cool little survival tips that is going to keep you from going absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts, and you don't want to do that, do you? Nobody likes that. Landing lights are extended, 7,000 feet. We're right where we're supposed to be. Below 6,000 feet at Brody, we reduce speed to 220 knots. At Beach, you can see the approach. Let's see if we can see the runway. Oh, well, of course not. That's another unwritten rule of flight simulators. If you've got really nice scenery, if you just spent the whole night downloading ortho scenery for your flight and it's really great, it's going to be mostly cloudy. Just get used to that. And it's the same way in Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you're really looking forward to a really nice flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator scenery in the new airplane that you just got for a really nice VFR tour, oh yes, count on the weather to make it fully socked in. That is an unwritten rule of flight simulation, and I guarantee you it happens, at least to me. Okay, we're starting to see the speed pick up. You hear the engines picking up a little bit here. It's getting our speed down to 220. I think we could probably go and do a notch of flaps. And this is just the leading edge slats, actually, that are rolling out. Flaps aren't actually going down. But as we start to slow down, this is when I start to roll some flaps out, especially coming in. We're also going to go ahead and arm the speed brakes. I think I'm done popping the speed brakes on and off. And we're going to go auto brakes medium. Oh, look at that. A beautiful view of green water. Now that's usually what Flight Simulator's going to show you. Maybe that's why Captain Sarcastic shows up all the time. Okay, everything's looking good here. Oh, look at this. We may be able to see some scenery outside the front window in a little bit. That might be nice. Okay, this is one of those approaches where the star ends and the approach to the runway begins, but they're not connected. So here we are coming in here. We're probably somewhere around in here. Okay, so after this, we turn to a heading of 150 after Skitu. And at that point in time, they're probably going to start having us go down a little bit more, and then we will get vectors to the final approach. So one of the things to do is come over here and hit the center of the heading select button. That changed it to our current heading, because after Skitu, I don't know if that's it or not, after Skitu, we're going to be vectoring ourselves over. And you can see the approach altitudes here. Benin is 4,300, 3,000. So as we continue to come around here, we know that we're going to go a little bit beyond Benin here. At this point, I'm going to go off of nav mode and we're going to go to heading select, because we're going to do vectors after this. And at this point, ATC is said to send and maintain 4,000. So 4,000, and profile will start you down. It's still trying to slow down, right? I said 4,000 and profile. Okay, now it recognized that 4,000. Are you going to do? There we go. Thank you. It probably was waiting for some speed. Now, the next thing we're going to do is very probably have to make a 90-degree turn. So that's going to probably be a turn to 240 degrees. But I'm going to wait until we get a little bit beyond Benin here, because that's when we're going to start to pick up the glide slope. We should also go over here and turn on the ILS system. And that is on, and we should now be picking up glide slope and localizer. And we are. The way that I knew about the turn for 240 is our heading right now is 150. No, I didn't do a bunch of math. I looked over here at this instrument, and that's the same number, and I looked at 90 degrees to the right. 240. I am not a math whiz. And so at this point, ATC, 240 degrees. I'm also going to take control of my speed. It says 210. I'm going to go, and they're usually about now going to start to slow us down to 180. Now it's just an arming number right now, so I'm going to go ahead and go to level change, and that should, well, it should. Boy, am I an idiot. I thought that would put us over there. Let's see what it does in altitude hold. Are we at 4,000? Well, I'm really not looking good today. Let's hit altitude hold. There we go. Now it's 180. Okay, and we're about ready to intercept the glide slope. Let's do a turn into the glide slope here. The localizer, excuse me. And here comes the localizer. I was a little late on that, so at this point, go over here, hit the land button. And now the airplane's going to take care of it for you. We are at 180. Let's go ahead and do another notch of flaps. And we're rolling out just fine. Gotta tell you, that is just a really, really nice airplane. I really like this airplane. Okay, how we doing here? We are at 4,000. If you're wondering what the little dissolve was, had a phone call. So I also am trying to do a pause. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how our little pause works here. Speed's 180. We are going down to 4,000 and change. Let's see, I'm also going to reset the heading select button to our current heading in case we have to go around. That's a good thing. Everything's looking good there. I'm going to hit the final approach button. There's final approach. We are about 12 miles from the runway. There's the runway right there. Our speed is good. Our altitude is good. Here comes glide slope. We've captured the localizer. And we are starting our final plunge. You may have heard over on the spy flight, I call it the final plunge. And the final plunge really is this point right here. There is an official name for it. I just think final plunge is a little more entertaining, and we get to be a little on the entertaining side. Looking ahead, it looks like I'm starting to see Boston Logan starting to appear, so that's good. You might have noticed that I have not lowered my landing gear or gone to my final approach speed. I usually wait until we're about 5 miles DME. Usually ATC will say 180 knots until Nimoy, which is about 5 miles before the end of the runway. So I'm going to keep up 180. I am going to note my VAP speed now is 134 knots. I always add enough to get it to the next big number. So 140. And if our VAP was 149, I would think more like 160 than 150. Just so I'm a little bit above the stall speed, because we really don't want to be, you know, stalling out and stuff. Another thing to do now is if you've got a moment, just have a quick look. Here we are landing on 33 left. I'll bet we could probably catch Foxtrot. So Foxtrot, if there's ground, you may need to stop here before you cross 22 left and 22 right. So Foxtrot into the gate area. United is down here at Terminal B. So another good thing to do is think about, okay, what are we going to do on there? Just have an idea of what it is that we're going to do. Another thing, if you had to get up and answer the phone, if you fold up in your chair, now's a good time. Readjust your chair, make sure that you can reach your throttles, your stick, and then I'm going to gently reach up and put my feet on the rudder pedals. I see some lights up ahead. That could very well be the airport, but it looks like we got some low visibility here. Coming up on 5 Mile Final, almost to Nimoy. And unless I've forgotten something, we seem to be good. I know what you're thinking. Should I check the checklist? And as soon as I do landing gear, we will. And we are almost to Nimoy. Almost to our 5 Mile Final. I say for today's flight, that's close enough. So, speed 140 is what I want for landing. So I'm going to manually move that down to 140. I'm not going to go to managed. I'm going to do 140. We're going to do landing gear. And I'm going to do another notch of flaps. Look over here, landing. Landing gear is going down. Auto brakes are set. Auto skid has been on. Slats and flaps are going down. Spoilers are armed. Landing checklist is done. Flaps are now full. Speed is down, gear's down. I'm also going to visually check my 3 little triangles here. So the 3 little triangles mean that the gear is down and locked and ready to go. You can hear the engine spooling up a little bit. It's going to spool up, slow down, spool up, slow down, and get us kind of right in the groove. We're in the little pipeline here for our descent. Coming up a little bit closer. I'm going to start reaching over, put my hand on the control stick. Gently rest my hand over on throttles. I'm still not 100% seeing my runway at the moment. I see VATSIM lights, but it's kind of hazy here. So I'm not going to take it off the autopilot until I'm really certain that I see my runway. This thing will do a Category 2 landing, so you know, we could probably leave it on a little longer if we want. I know if we want to be like, you know, Goose and Maverick, we want who needs an autopilot, but wait till you can see your runway. Sometimes coming into some airports, you might see the runway and then the fog rolls in. Surprise, there's 400. I generally rate to around 3 or 200. Around minimums. I see the runway. AP is off. Second push of the button clears all of the alerts. You may need to nudge it down just a little bit. It will float on you a bit. Now I'm a little high. That's one of the things that happens with this. Reversers. Reversers green. Here was my high speed that I wanted, but I float. Looks like we're going to catch the second high speed. reversers, tap the brakes, off the runway, speed brakes up, speed brakes down, flaps up. If we were on ATC, I would exit the runway, but if I see a runway I'm coming up on, unless they've specifically told me to cross, I'm gonna wait. Otherwise, you know, we'll just go. Off the runway too, as we start to do a few things, we're gonna reach up here. We're gonna turn off the landing lights, turn off the strobes. I'm gonna go and turn off engine anti-ice. I'm gonna flip the switch and hit the on switch for the APU. I love how this thing models the smoke over here. That is really cool to have. And that, by the way, that's the real wind direction too. The scenery designer, Mr. X here, is just amazing. And the best part is, I think this is one of Mr. X's free sceneries for X-Plane. One of their free sceneries just blows me away. Okay, so we are off. I believe we're on the Alpha taxiway right now. So we are right here on Alpha. United Land is down here. Let's go B24, 25, 26, one of those gates. That's Alpha Charlie, Alpha Tango, and then this next one after this one, and that should be United Land coming on up here. This is Alpha 2, that's good. So there we are coming up on the United gates. If you want to know where your favorite airline goes to, but you don't know where they go to, I recommend using something like FlightAware. It will sometimes tell you what gates an airplane is going to for your favorite airline. And if you know that you're going to go and fly a flight that your favorite airline does in real life, one of the cool things to do is to go and check out which gates through FlightAware you could use. Okay, notice that big bright light there. We've got somebody who flies with us on the spy flight called Happy Pappy, and Happy Pappy actually has the job of marshaling airplanes like this in. Happy Pappy says, would you please turn the light off? You're blinding the people there. And there's the guy out there bringing us in. Going at it slow. Now this airport also has a departure board, but you can't go and adjust it like the one in Chicago. And I always tap the brakes just a little bit too much. There we go. Look down here, parking brakes are on. APU is already on. Let's go ahead and do engines. Both of the engines are off. We'll turn the bleed on, and I'm gonna disarm the emergency exits on the doors. We're gonna do seatbelts off almost immediately. Engines are going off. The beacon can go off too. We're gonna come up here. We're gonna do fuel pumps. I'm also gonna go up here and turn off the probe heaters because I don't want people to get burned. Those, I'm told, get pretty hot. Did you notice while I was flipping switches that the pitch trim and yaw dampers automatically turned off? If you're going to do a second flight, so if we were going to take off from here and go to Atlanta or something, you don't have to realign these if you keep the airplane turned on. So you'll be able to turn these guys back on, but they automatically turn themselves off. We are also at the gates, so click this button here and turn off traffic, and then you can come up here and start clicking the button. Usually I find it, I usually just turn off RA, the transponder. I put it on standby, so we're no longer squawking mode Charlie. Let's go down here. I'm going to clear this, and let's see what my fuel was. 4.4. I was supposed to have 5.4. I should have checked my taxi fuel. Now, I bet if I start doing my taxi stuff a little bit better, if I'm a little smarter about taxi stuff, maybe I can solve that. And I actually think that's what I'm going to do. This is a day that I usually take off from live streaming. I think I'm going to try a flight and do a better job of planning that. So we're going to go to SAM. SAM 3, this is a cool little payware that you can get. And this does a number of things, but you can see that this is going to go ahead and our jetway is going to come out to the airplane. So here comes our jetway. There's our jetway. So now we can come over here and go return. We can go to ground ops, go to ground services. I'm going to put chocks in place. We're going to get an external power cart. We're going to return, go to exits. Before you open the doors, remember, disarm your doors. Disarm the doors. Make sure it's green. I think maybe I forgot to arm them. Open, open, open. And then we can come over here. Airplane's looking good. Look at that. My brakes weren't hot. Usually on an Airbus landing, my brakes are hot. Open the door. And we'll kind of come out here as all the passengers say, wow, that was a great landing. Yeah. My friends call me Maverick all the time. I wish they'd stop, but they, okay, great landing. Bye. See you later. Thanks. And there is our jetway. And you can even see the jetway there. How about that? Or as Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. said in the movie Airport 75, once again, skill and daring have overcome fear and anxiety, which has pretty much become my family motto if I've had a family. There you go. That is the flight. So what I'm going to do is you will look, if you look in the description, I'm going to take these top lines here. I'm going to paste these. These are pasted into the description. I haven't done it yet now, but you seeing it and it's there. The time frame on YouTube sort of messes with you. I'm going to put this information as. I do suggest that you take this and change it. Use it so that this is good flight notes for you. All this is a notepad, and it works really, really well. And that's essentially my flight there. So again, this was not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is about what works for me. I'm still relatively new here on YouTube, so being new on YouTube, I still read all the comments and questions, and I actually really appreciate them. Thank you. If you've got a comment or a question, I'll either answer it in chat, or I'll do a whole new video. If there's a cold and dark video you'd like me to do, put it in comments. I do read them. And also, if you'd like, we'd certainly appreciate it. Come on by the Spy Flights on Twitch. We're at 757 Spy. We fly pretty much every day, Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu. That is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a Discord server, and you can go over there and find out what our flight plans are. And we do almost every flight is a group flight. So you can hop in your sim and fly along with us. And when you're over there, you'll find out that I got a few spy stories over on Amazon if you like spy stories. If you really like this video and wanted to show some support, like I said, I'm new here on YouTube. So if you'd like to show some more support, you can come over to Twitch and hit the subscriber button. If anything, come over to Twitch, hit the follow button, and come be friends because we have a good time. And thank you so much for flying with me. I hope that this video helped, and I will look forward to seeing you soon here on YouTube and even sooner over on Twitch. Thanks for watching.